Alright, so I've done the flame out, added the flame out hop edition. Just to bring you up to speed, what I've done here is I have connected from the outside of the kettle, which is, it's registering just under 210 degrees Fahrenheit, but you know what, I really don't like these thermometers anyways, they don't seem to work that well. Anyways, coming out, going to my 12 volt pump, connected to a battery. See if I can get enough light here, it's pretty late in the day. One side. From the pump, it's coming up into the counterflow chiller. This is the first time I've actually used it for a real batch. Just going to put my hand under the outflow here. The water is actually it's quite warm actually. I'm going to put my hand here on the hose, see how we're doing. Seems to be coming out okay. And we'll follow it up to the fermenter here. So if anything goes wrong, you're going to find out at the same time as me. So I've gone through the sanitation process with the pump running. It's filled just over the 1 gallon mark right now. So I'm going to put my thermometer inside here and take a look. I first need to sanitize it though. I actually saved my mash paddle here. I saved a big bucket full of Star San. All right, so we'll turn that guy on. Put the lid down for the fermenter. I'm pretty excited. So the air is about 46 degrees Fahrenheit. Putting this into the wort that's coming up. About 70 degrees is what's reading. So what I'm going to do here, oh, it smells really sweet. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to let this fill up, empty out the brew kettle there, and restart the video. Alright, TriCities Brew Club, as I mentioned, I'd share any problems with you. So I did run into a problem. I had about 10.5 gallons based on my experience with my brew system. The only thing that's new that I've added is the counterflow chiller. So the problem that I have right now is that my brew kettle is dry. It is empty. There is a little bit of hops in the bottom, a little bit of residue from perhaps the grains, and that's okay. It's empty, so that's good. But the problem is that I haven't hit my 11 gallon mark, and I think that it's related to the fact that a lot of the tubing that I'm using here is actually eating up, let me stand under the light here, is actually eating up the rest of the wort that I want. So what I'm going to try to do here, I've turned off the valves so that just with the power of siphoning, it's going to stay in the lines. I'm just going to elevate all this tubing above the general level here of the liquid and see how much more I can get into the fermenter. What I'll do then is take a specific gravity reading. I'll compare that against what the brew toad application anticipated that I would get, and I'll probably boil some reverse osmosis water and add it just to top up to make sure that I get to the right specific gravity. Worst case scenario is I'll probably have a really high alcohol content beer. It might be much thicker than I was anticipating. The yeast calculations that I had performed, looking for about 25 grams of dry yeast, which I have here in my starter, may not be sufficient. So I'm going to pause this video, try and get as much of the wort from the lines as possible into the induction cone fermenter that I have, and I'll continue the video at that point. Right, so continuing the video, what I've done here is I've elevated all of the hosing above the water level in the induction cone, and I've been able to disconnect all the hosing that led from the boil kettle to the pump to the immersion coil. And what you can see here is, because of the shape and the design of the coil itself, it's spiraling downwards with gravity. And the wort is actually following the water line, so there's actually very little wort that's left in the hose at this point. So what I'm going to do is just continue to elevate the hose and see what I end up with in the induction cone. All right, talk soon. All right, so after a little bit of math, the 8.5 gallons of wort that I had brought in from the boil kettle, minus any loss that I had, brought me up to a specific gravity. I'm not sure if you're going to be able to see this. Let's see. But 1.074. And the actual target based on the Brew Toad application was 1.063 original gravity. So what I did is I always have some reverse osmosis water here. It's purified water, ready to go. What I did was I topped this up to the calculated just under 11 gallons, and that brought me to a 1.067 OG, which is much closer to what I would anticipate. So that should yield, if it all ferments out properly, approximately 7.1% alcohol by volume, which is fantastic for this IPA. Right now what I'm doing is I'm adding air. I've been running it for about 10 minutes now, running air into the wort itself to help support the yeast growth. What I picked up, I think I showed it to you guys a little bit earlier, but what I picked up from Mr. Pets over on Pine Tree was a small aquarium pump. I sanitized the lines. It comes out at a really, really small size. I've actually had to upgrade that hosing, leveraging a 1/4 inch bev line, internal diameter, so that I could actually connect it to a 3/8, which allowed me to connect it to the sanitary fitting that I showed you that I picked up from Beyond the Grape the other night. So I'm going to let this go for, I calculated about 20 minutes of exposure to the pump. Should help agitate enough. I've been checking for leaks. The ball valve is good. Everything appears to be really solid. I'm really happy with how it turned out. I'm a little bit disappointed with my lack of mathematical calculations in terms of my overall loss. Using the counterflow chiller, my loss is much higher. With my boil kettle, I usually lose about 0.25 gallons because it's really only about 3/8 of an inch off the bottom. When I'm using siphon, especially with a pump, I can usually get right down to the bottom of it. With the mash tun, because it was overloaded, I probably could have made, I think it's called a small beer. I had enough runnings left over with my water bill to probably make a small, maybe 2-3 gallon batch, but fortunately I just dumped it down the drain and composted the spent grains. I just don't have the time or the extra kettles to process that within the same brew day. So I'm going to aerate my yeast here, and I'm going to pitch that. Once it's been pitched, I'm going to bring in a small thermostatic controlled heater and maintain approximately the between 70 and 72 degrees Fahrenheit room temperature in here. It's pretty difficult to do with the temperature outside. We get a lot of ups and downs. But I believe the US 05 Belgian yeast is actually pretty tolerant to the fluctuations. So I guess the next update will probably be when I'm performing the final gravity calculations and the racking into the keg. Don't forget, if anyone is interested in some winter ale, it is here for you in a tertiary, ready to go to a good home. All right, well, thanks for watching this video, and I hope you have a great day. Take care.